we know that we are going to Azj-Kahet, right? The new, whatever, Nerubian Empire, the final Nerubian Empire, as they are calling it, in the War Within expansion. I figured we get into a little bit about Nerubian lore with our friend Platinum. Wow, this is an older video, but we can update this video and talk a little bit about how this lore relates to the War Within and everything we know about the Nerubians and their relationship with Xal'atath going forward. Yeah, kill you now? Maybe the Nerubians will kill you. Here we go.
In World of Warcraft Wrath of the Lich King Classic, there are plenty of enemies you can find all across the surface of Northrend. But sometimes the real threat you need to worry about is what lurks beneath the ice. The sprawling city of Azjol-Nerub and the insectoids called the Nerubians is Northrend's dark-kept secret. How did they get here? Who do they serve? And how can you make sure that they never get within a 50-foot radius of you, because by the light, they are horrifying.
I love Nerubian architecture. I think Nerubians are really cool. I'm excited to see how Azj-Kahet looks, because we've never actually seen a fully blown Nerubian city outside of an instance. Right now we're going to see a fully realized Nerubian city. And the Nerubians are cool because they've always been resistant to domination magic. And we've talked a lot about domination magic recently, and how the Titans use it to freaking control everything, and how it's connected to the Primus and everything else. But these boys, completely resistant to domination magic. That could mean a lot going forward.
Well, thankfully, I can answer some of those questions. My name is Platinum WoW, and let me give you my interpretation of these earth-dwelling, nightmare-fueled creatures. Our story begins 16,000 years ago. The troll and old god insects called the Aekir waged war with one another in violent battles. The trolls pushed the insectoids all across to different corners of Azeroth.
And see, when this video was made, I don't think we completely knew where these insectoids started, where this whole troll war started. But then we realized, if you guys don't remember, we were watching the video yesterday. Where is it here? This whole thing started because of Xal'atath. The whole troll Aekir war started because of Xal'atath. This clip right here.
It was a large black mound of stone that no one was permitted to travel to because of its bad vibes. Obviously, Xal'atath convinced Xando to travel there.
She did. She literally released this entire Aekir army. So all of this shit was because of her.
Weak mind.
So it makes sense that now she's getting re-involved with the Nerubians again in the War Within.
Gives way.
But watch this. This was the whole release of her.
Oh yeah, she also convinced him to sacrifice his followers there in a blood ritual, and oh yeah, also drive the blade deep into the stone.
There you go.
Turns out, it wasn't just a big black stone.
Yeah.
It was an ancient old god monster called Kithix, and this event marked the beginning of the Aekir and Troll War.
Boom. So I take you back from here where we realize Xal'atath started the whole Aekir Troll War, back to our history of the Nerubians.
Eventually, the trolls would be victorious.
It's all connected, boys.
But that does not mean all of the Aekir necessarily died. These pockets of isolated creatures would eventually evolve into their own distinct races. For example, the ones in the southwestern side of the continent, by Ahn'Qiraj, would turn into the Qiraji. The ones in the southeast would turn into the Mantid. And finally, the ones in the north stumbled upon a Tol'vir society, and subsequently killed or enslaved all of them.
Yeah, and if you didn't know this, the Nerubians, so they're different races, where they were on the planet or on Azeroth is why they evolved into certain things, and it was because of the old god influence that was closest to them. So the Nerubians went north, right? And they were mostly affected by Yogg-Saron because that's where his influence was. So that's how they evolved into the Nerubians. And then the other Aekir, who became the Qiraji, they're the Qiraji, yeah. They became the Qiraji because of Cthulhu's influence. And then we know the Mantid, remember from Pandaria and everything else, they became that way because of Y'Shaaraj's essence. So each of these were strictly affected by the old god that was nearest to them. So we know the old gods have a lot of influence in terms of, what's been going on with the Nerubians, the Qajari, and all the other Mantid that came from the Aekir, that evolved from the Aekir. So it's not a coincidence right now that Xal'atath is getting re-involved with them, and specifically the Nerubians who were affected by Yogg-Saron. Very
Now,
interesting
over time,
stuff.
these Akir would eventually evolve into the Nerubians we know today,
Yes.
and repurpose the 12-year architecture with a variety of other inspirations to make it look edgy and cool. Now,
I love their
the
architecture.
time frame of 16,000 years ago to somewhere around...
And by the way, what else is Yogg-Saron most known for? Yeah, the gift of flesh. Yeah, I don't call it the curse of flesh, it's the gift of flesh, because he gave us free will.
Around modern day, the Nerubians stopped worshipping the old gods entirely, and really we can only speculate on why. Perhaps they didn't have good contact with them, seeing as Yogg-Saron and the rest were locked up in maximum security prison. Maybe it was because the old gods didn't try to assist them in some sort of manner during the previous war, so the Nerubians learned to resent them.
Maybe they stopped hearing the
or
whispers.
Perhaps the Nerubians were just going through an angsty teenager phase, revolting against authority with all their new brooding architecture.
Well, again, what I was gonna say is that, as a side note here, that all that evolution and everything, right, that happened with the Nerubians based on the old gods. Well, we know that evolution continues in the next expansion, in the War Within. We've seen that we're going to get like humanoid-style Nerubians, right? We see one here, and I think there's another one, yeah, right here. So we're getting these humanoid-looking Nerubians. Some people think they might be playable. Just ask Doran, the truth teller. But so the evolution continues, right? As Woj was saying in chat, or Wajo was saying in chat, that Xal'atath is continuing the Nerubian evolution, and we're going to get these crazy-looking humanoid Nerubians. These things look kind of badass, I'm not going to lie. So, the old god influence continues.
Point is, the Nerubians are in a unique position on Azeroth, because
Yeah, another hint that probably Xal'atath is an old god. I mean, we talked about this yesterday.
they're some of the few
She's
who
doing the
don't
same shit
worship
the old
any
gods
sort of
did.
gods and are their own independent faction. But this didn't stop them from expanding their empire to an incredible degree. They enslaved the Jormungandr worms and helped carve out their city of Azjol-Nerub that is rumored to span half the length of Northrend.
Damn, half the length of Northrend. That's insane. Why do Titans call it the curse then, Sam? Because the Titans want us to believe the old gods are all bad. Like they want us to side with them. So of course they're going to call it the curse of flesh. But that shit gave us free will. It gave us free will. The Titans hate free will. They would have rather stayed stony boys who just obey their orders. But yeah, it's just another Titan lie, another Titan twist on the truth.
Now in the city, there are a bunch of different types of Nerubians that exist, all with their own unique strengths and weaknesses. There are Nerubian spiders, flyers, and your normal basic run-of-the-mill Nerubian. One of the more substantial sub-races are the Nerubian seers, who are the most intelligent beings in the entire faction, and you'll typically see them take on the roles of sorcerers or advisors.
Interesting.
Advisors to who? Well, Spider Lords are the mighty leaders of the Nerubian society. Anu Barak is the king of kings in Azjol-Nerub, who rules over his underground lair with an iron fist.
Right. So Anu Barak was the king of there, but now we have that Azj-Kahet zone that's coming, and they are led by Queen. What is this? Queen and Surek is her name. I don't know if we have a picture of her yet. I don't think we do. Yeah, we don't have a picture of Queen and Surek or what she looks like. But here's a picture of the new city, and I'm guessing probably her throne room or something is up in here. So if you don't know, this whole new city that we're going to be, going into, Azj-Kahet, it's actually described as a city built on top of a city multiple times over. So there's like a basic, I don't know what you would call it, a caste system or something. There's basically like a system that separates like the best or the most wealthy Nerubians. They are on top. And then it goes deeper and deeper, and as you go deeper, you have like the less well-off Nerubians. So this is like a fully fledged society. This is not just bug people running around. Like they have a system, a hierarchy and everything. Like this is a fully fleshed out city. And we're going to be seeing these different layers as we go deeper, and who knows what we're going to find out. But yes, the new queen of this city is Queen and Surek. That's her name. And like I said, I'm guessing this is her throne room. This is some art from the new expansion. Why did layered? Yeah, it's layered. It is. Their new city is in fact layered.
Or should I say claw or thorax or... Okay, hold on, let me check here. Okay, so their arms are called raptorials. See, not only are you learning lore, but biology as well. Okay, point is, the Nerubians expanded their empire for thousands of years until a familiar threat you may be aware of
You ever heard of the
dominating
Scourge?
the landscape above.
That's right.
Atop the frozen throne, the spirit of the Orca shaman Ner'zhul was encased in ice and was the first instance of a Lich King. From his throne, he used his immense psychic and necromantic powers to build an army of undead called the Scourge. And this sudden, rapidly expanding army did not go unnoticed by the Nerubians. They knew they needed to stop the Scourge as fast as possible before they spiraled out of control. The insectoids used their complex network of caverns to their advantage and would hit the Scourge fast.
They were not only, I mentioned earlier, they were resistant. They are still resistant to domination magic, but they were resistant to plague magic too, or whatever you want to call it. So it was very tough for the Lich King and the Scourge to push back against the Nerubians.
And hard. Their first assault was on the Lich King's fortress of Ice Crown Citadel.
Yogg was never punished, but Xal'atath was. That's an interesting one. Yeah.
Much to the Scourge ruler's dismay, the Nerubians were immune to his telepathic powers of domination and the Plague of Undeath.
Yep. I wonder if we're going to learn how to become, like, maybe we fight against the Nerubians, but then we end up, becoming friends. Who knows? Maybe that's why people think some Nerubians could become playable. But if we did ally with the Nerubians, I wonder if they could, if it's not some, like, ingrained genetic thing, if they could teach us how to resist domination magic. And then we start to realize a lot of the truths about the Titans.
But the Lich King had one more trick up his sleeve.
Bone Storm! The Scourge will wash over this world as a swarm of death and destruction.
Is this really what he used? Did he really use?
Waste to this realm.
Oh my God, Azami! Thank you for the sub on YouTube, man. Oh my God, this is horrible. Look at the carnage. So the Lich King won.
Even with their natural resistances, the Nerubians still could be raised into undeath and be forced to join the ranks of the unstoppable Scourge. And although the Nerubians made a valiant attempt to dismantle the undead, their aggressive attacks would only attract the ire of the Lich King. Now an event called the War of the Spider was in full motion.
Yep. And so one story about the new city that we're going to, right, Azj-Kahet, is supposedly they were part of the Nerubians that eventually escaped the War of the Spider, that got away from this whole thing, because this thing was a complete annihilation, all-out battle. Pure
the Scourge
insanity.
army hit the underground kingdom of Azjol-Nerub with an unending wave of undead. With every dozen of Scourge
he almost made them extinct. There were just sub little pockets that escaped the War of the Spider.
24 of them would stand in their place. If the Nerubians were going to survive this, they need to use everything at their disposal. Hadronox is a monolithic spider that was released by the Nerubians that slayed countless Scourge in the kingdom of Azjol-Nerub. Even to this day, when players enter the kingdom, he is still constantly slaying any and all undead who dare challenge him.
Undead killing machine.
But such strength was not enough to save the entire kingdom. Some Nerubians attempted to cut their losses and flee from the city and dig deeper into the earth.
That's why we are now going to see a new city of escaped Nerubians.
This would be a fatal mistake, as they accidentally awakened the old god minions, called the Faceless Ones, deep within the earth.
There you go.
Now they were fighting a war on two fronts, and this would be the Nerubians' death knell, along with their leader, Anubarak.
Yep.
Now
raised in undeath.
Anubarak's mind was dominated by the Lich King, and unwillingly slaughtered any and all who resisted against his new master, even the Nerubian servants who once praised him. And long after the War of the Spider, the Traitor King would become one of Arthas's most valuable servants and help him
Big Daddy
venture
Boss
to the Frozen Throne.
Yes, go forth, my steed.
What a cool mount that would be.
But let's get back to the war. Yeah, no, the Nerubians, they lost big time.
Yeah, they
All
got
of the slain
slaughtered.
members of the city were raised into one death to be
Yep.
loyal members of the Scourge.
Yep.
And various ziggurats in the city were transformed into floating necropolises, which would be a huge benefit to their new map.
And that is why necropolises have a very Nerubian-esque architecture to them. I didn't even realize this until the first time I watched this video, but that's crazy. So that's like the only city that we've ever seen from the Nerubians prior to this new Azj-Kahet city that we're going to see. This new zone is a city that was destroyed in the War of the Spiders. We've never seen like a fully active city. I really hope that this city looks amazing. I hope we see people running around everywhere doing their thing. I hope it's not just some kind of dungeon. I really hope that we get to actually see like a fully fleshed out Nerubian city. Maybe they transform us into Nerubians, kind of like they did with Suramar. You know how we would turn into one of the Suramar elves and be able to run around in the city and actually do stuff in it and see it as a fully fleshed out city? That's what I hope we get to see with this new city. The City of Webs, I think it's called, or something like that. There is a name for it, but I forget what it's called. The City of Threads, that's what it's called. So this new city, like I said, I hope we get to transform maybe and go in there and see what the Nerubians are actually like when an entire civilization is living in a city like this. But the Nerubians are up to something. The Nerubians are up to something sinister, being led by the old god, as we've kind of hinted at, being led by the old god, Xal'atath. Yeah, cue the eerie music. So Xal'atath is out there, and what is she doing with these Nerubians right now? Well, she has them gathering ancient old blood. Ancient blood, right? And nobody knows why she's doing this yet, right? So right now she's gathering, for an unknown purpose, she's having these Nerubians gather this black blood of the old god. Old god blood is infamous, we know what it can be used for. We know what Serenite was used for back. That's Yogg-Saron's blood being, built the entirety of Icecrown Citadel and everything else and used for armor and stuff like that. But we did just watch the little, cutscene where, Xal'atath was stabbed into that black stone by that troll, releasing the whole Ankir army and all that stuff. So maybe she's trying to build another army. Now, there are hints at the fact that she wants to bring back the Ancient One. Now, nobody really knows what this is yet. And we go back. So when we go back in the timeline, right? We go back in the timeline in Dragonflight, where we do that whole quest line where we're bouncing between timelines. We go back to the Azj-Kahet timeline, that's when the Rifts lore shit, where we go see the whole Black Empire. And while you're there, you can loot something called the Chipstone Tablet. I'll bring this up real quick. Right? The Chipstone Tablet. And what is this thing? You found this discarded in Azj-Kahet, which is where you are in this timeline at the time. Who or what it is unclear, but it describes a Hunger Game-like event that exists to please the Ancient One. What is the Ancient One, guys? We've never heard about it in WoW. But we have heard about it in something else. That's right, in Hearthstone. So in Hearthstone, there is a card called the Ancient One. It depicts this old god, kind of looks like the old god that we described as Xal'atath the other day. But anyways, this is the Ancient One card, and how do you summon the Ancient One in Hearthstone? Well, it is an uncollectible minion card, but you can summon it by gathering this, the blood of the Ancient One. If you control two of these cards at the end, you can turn them into the Ancient One. So that's kind of crazy that Xal'atath is having these Nerubians collect blood. And that's what you need to summon the Ancient One in Hearthstone. So it looks like Xal'atath's plan is kind of starting to be revealed here. You never knew this? What in the literal fuck? Yeah. I think we're starting to figure out what Xal'atath's plan is. To summon the Ancient One. She is using Nerubians to gather all this blood And what is this blood used for? Well, in Hearthstone, this blood is used to summon the Ancient One, a creature previously only mentioned in Hearthstone. Yeah, this creature is described as the old god's greatest creation, is summoned by collecting enough blood. The Ancient One's blood can be used to bring this creature back to life. Then, perhaps old god blood can be used to restore them as well. Yeah, so this is crazy. I'm telling you, this Nerubian lore, the fact that we are interacting with the Nerubians again, this is not a mistake. This is by design. This is all part of Xal'atath's plan. And we're all just going to fall right into it.
Masters. And most importantly, the Scourge marketing manager came in and explicitly stated that the Nerubians needed to change their names to ensure that they stay on brand with the Scourge. So, for example, the basic Nerubians,
HR came in and
renamed
renamed
to Crypt Fiends, and Spider Lords would be renamed to Crypt Lords, for no particular reason other than they sound cool. And the Nerubian society was totally absorbed by the Scourge, and now must unwillingly follow the Lich King's every command from their corrupted husk of their former city. And that's the end of our story. Okay, bye. No. Let's not have our story end on a depressing note. When players arrive at Northrend years later during the Wrath of the Lich King, they team up with some of the few remaining Nerubians who have
That's
somehow
right, there are some
survived the
Nerubians who
Scourge
are...
onslaught.
That's why I'm saying we could end up allying with these Nerubians or something in some way, because we've already seen not all Nerubians are bad, right? We have allied with Nerubians before.
This small group is called the Azjol-Nerub and gives you quests for the two Nerubian dungeons, Azjol-Nerub and Xal'atath, the Old Kingdom. So go forth, players, avenge the Nerubians and reclaim the city of Azjol-Nerub from the Scourge. And while you're at it, get some loot because, let's be honest, I know why you're there.
That's right.
But the fallen city of
That's right.
Azjol-Nerub is not the only place you can explore in Northrend. Oh, no. There are plenty of other places to explore and enemies to defeat who are not nearly as horrifying.
Great video.
Most of the time, in Wrath of the Lich King Classic.
There you go. So this was made when Wrath of the Lich King Classic was coming out, but I thought it was a great backdrop to kind of get into all of this Nerubian lore and what it could mean and this whole plan that Xal'atath is putting together, creating these new Nerubians, right? Gathering all this blood, potentially summoning this Ancient One. Oh, man. This could all be part of... And even this description of this Hunger Games event. It was recently data mined that this whole vampire survivor shit's been put into the game. That sounds like it could be some type of Hunger Games event. It's all connected, boys. It's all connected. And Xal'atath's plan is going to be realized. And I don't know if it's going to, it might happen towards the end of the War Within. I definitely think in Midnight, she is going to take some big W's against us, and we're going to take some L's. So we'll see where all of this leads going forward to the next couple expansions. But Nerubians, definitely relevant. And I thought their lore was would be interesting to talk about.